Hello everyone, my name's Anthony and welcome back to The Vlog Theory. Today, I have something very special and very unique to share with you. I was approached by my friend Kenneth, who I've known since 2003, to record a talk that he was doing for one of his university courses. The talk was mainly focused on DIY culture and his baby, his project that he's been building since November 2017. Kenneth and his team release an online, digitally distributed magazine every single month based on DIY culture and the essence of bringing together smaller, tight-knit communities of people who really enjoy the punk and emo music scene. I have learned a lot from this man. I gain a lot of inspiration from this man. He is somebody who I'm glad to have by my side and am hoping to work together in the future. I've probably butchered this explanation, so without further ado, here is my friend Kenneth talking about what he loves to do, what makes him wake up every single day, what makes him survive. Yer Scene is his baby. This online zine is his life. It's not even just a magazine anymore. This is a brand he's building, and I'm proud to be at least a small part of it. So, enjoy.
So before we go into this, we're going to come to an agreement. I'm going to be entertaining, short, try to get you to class, and you'll laugh at least 2 jokes. If we do this, we'll get along great. So I also all got all dressed up today to come present. I guess you'd call this in the traditional garb. So I'm here to talk to you about what has radically changed my life in a way that no other thing has. So my name is Kenneth Fury, and if you're wondering if I'm related to Professor Fury, there's only 2 Furies you probably know, and they're both in the same school. So yes, we are. So I run Yer Scene. Yer Scene is basically what started as a zine. We'll talk about that. Does anyone know what a zine is offhand? James, I know you're cheating. You do?
Yeah, I do.
Wonderful. Oh, sorry, did I cut you off?
Oh, no, I
Okay.
just.
Oh yeah, you gotta understand that I really am doing this presentation much the same way you throw firecrackers in the toilet, huh? We're gonna be pretty hit and run here. Yer Scene started off as a zine, but now operates more as a media outlet because we started a podcast last summer, and our big new project going into the last half of, it's 2019, yeah?
Can you tell us all what a zine is?
Yeah, I actually wrote a great part of a Wikipedia article.
Perfect.
So, came prepared. And I meant to bring one, but I forgot in the car because, again, firecrackers. Good. So yeah, basically our big goal this year will be starting up a Patreon so we can do merch more properly and set up distribution around the world. And why would we want to do that? So Yer Scene is a zine, which is basically a self-made magazine. They're often hand-printed, put together by hand, and cut, pasted, dried with love. They, to me, embody everything I love with the DIY ethos of the mid-'80s to the '90s, and now it's taking on new life. So basically, they started off as sci-fi in the '40s as a way for people who were really into sci-fi. When it was pre-Star Wars, again, we have to understand that sci-fi wasn't the media giant that it is now. So to, most importantly, create an ability for people to access niche content and information in a more accessible manner while never sacrificing the integrity. I would say that is the main goal of the zine and something I'm conscious of. So, like I said, they started in the '40s, but they really became a phenomenon around the development of the underground / DIY music scene, which we'll be returning to a lot. For me, because I come from a heavier music background, if this didn't give away, that this really was birthed out of the hardcore scene. Does anyone know the band Black Flag? Essential? Yeah, they're the best, of course. Greg Ginn can piss off, but so as bands like Black Flag began to tour the U.S. in a new way. Black Flag was off a DIY label, meaning they did it all themselves. They cut every record themselves. They paid for everything. They put every vinyl and record into the sleeves, and then they put all the add-ons and stickers they did. And they used to do this for hundreds and hundreds of times. We see some of the most famous record labels coming out of the '80s, like Discord, which was led by Fugazi / my Red frontman, E. McKay, or McKay, depending on who you ask and make angry. So basically, they're the easiest way for people to create a network among niche communities. So these communities of underground music scenes and stuff like that aren't necessarily new and stuff like that, but one of my biggest goals is you're seeing in a lot of ways an anthropology project. I went to some of my first shows when I was 15 or 16 at the TRC, and I had bands blow my mind. I met people that I've been looking for forever, because for some context, I live in a more rural area. I lived in Grand Bay, and if any of you've been there, you know if you don't have a car, you're not getting out. So I missed out on a lot of information. I couldn't help but think, while I was going through grades like grade 11, because you gotta understand that punk's all about cool punk points. It's not just a joke, but. So every time I thought I needed to find more cool essential punk bands to prove my punk credibility to people who didn't really give a shit, I would think, well, where do I look? So I would Google bands, and most of that, if you've ever done it, is pretty poop. You will get very vague results. Wikipedia is a genre definer, it's pretty trash. And basically I just felt like something was really missing, and through the years I've always taken a big interest in communities and the people around me. So we get to, oh, wrong page. So yeah, basically a couple years ago, this started in 2017. So it releases monthly on the first of every month, and the podcast then releases on, there's 2 episodes of the podcast, 2 different shows, one on the 10th and one on the 20th, and now I've started a new interview series from the website. And so basically what I started doing was I had an idea. Okay, actually, let's take a step back from this. So how many of you feel like you've been in have gone to quote unquote an underground show? I'm not talking of Cavendish, I'm talking, I know, because I made you come to mine. All right, that's great. So you understand that when you're in a DIY space, it's usually somebody's basement if you're lucky. There's usually a good dog and some PBR in the fridge. But when I was in my first high school band in grade 12, one of my friends was part of the Greek community of St. John, and as some of you know, who said that? We're gonna get along. So Mount Olympus was a DIY venue that I moved meat grinders in the storage for, which is why I earned the name Kenneth Meat Grinders Fury amongst my friends, which should theoretically make me sound threatening, but it just makes me feel like an app. See, you guys laughed at that one. I'm doing good. I even smiled. Okay, so I'm starting to realize. So basically, Mount Olympus was a DIY space. We could show up. You brought a PS2. There was Spyro and Crash Bandicoot. You could practice with your band. We had recording spaces set up. I cannot overstate to you how important this is for a community, especially when you're dealing with kids who don't feel like they have a lot of places to go. And even if you feel like, you know, coming from a very privileged background myself, I might have chosen another path. Sorry, did I miss your question? I thought you moved your hand, sorry. This eye is really bad, so if I see any movement, I'm like a cat and start swatting. Oh, 2 for 2. And so when Mount Olympus, we got the eviction notice because it turns out letting people smoke inside, underage drinking, and other things like that don't really do too well with legal repercussions. So we did what my father would call getting the hell out of Dodge. So the DIY community of St. John tended to scatter at this point. We still had shows at the Panic Room, may she rest in peace, there's a new one now. And Taco Pico, which I'm sure most of you are very familiar with because that seems to be the main hub. But as I sat at my favorite diner, AJ's on the west side, if you ever want to take me, I thought everyone's had to have a Mount L in these communities. Everyone has had something that has been institutionalized, made important, and it is most importantly is made by people who are participating, not for monetary gain. Like I said earlier, I alluded to DIY as doing it yourself, and while that applies to Etsy, for me it is my life code. This is something I consider into every decision. I guess you call me an ideologue, but I believe in it. It's something that's never failed me and continues in both online and real life networking, just meeting people. It's about coming from a place of respect. And I actually wrote 3 things that I think define it. That could have been a little bit smoother. So, before we do that, why do I do this? We were talking about it earlier. Why do I do this? Why do I push forward in a world of saturation? There was a Brockhampton joke written, but I crossed it out. So, I do this because I love it. Because when I see and read about when somebody from Romania messages me about his SoundCloud hip-hop career, and in the same day my friend in Northern Ireland has joined the team and is telling me about the wonderful punk scene they've got going there. You can't help but think it's all exciting. It reminds me of walking through those doors at the TRC, the venue that's not supposed to be a venue, but goddamn, the band showed up. You might even had a beer that night. Essentially, for me, this is magic. We are creating a network as we do this. So one of the biggest things about the zines at the back pages is that we have a list of promoters, labels, and anything else that we deem important in the back of the zine every month. So let's say your band is stuck in Utah, date canceled. You might be able to find somebody in Utah that night. So we're both looking to provide something that's just enjoyable, the content of the zine, which we're going to look at now, and but we're also making sure to still build up those networks and stuff. And again, there's not a price tag on it, but because for me, DIY means creating opportunity for yourself and others. That is the most important thing I can. You should always sacrifice a little bit of yourself, not to your detriment, but to see somebody else do well. I was raised in a religious home, and I can't help but wonder if these two things coincide. Again, the golden rule: be good to someone else, because you should drive someone's drum kit to the show because they might pick you up when the van crashes. So DIY. Creating opportunity for yourselves and others. And DIY is meant to organize both outsiders, marginalized people, and overall a community to better life in and out. So this is very important for me. The zine itself is not a venue or band, but there's definitely things we can do. Later this year, we're going to release a compilation of bands all around the world. We'll have artists from all around the world doing art, and we're going to press some records and some CDs and some tapes, and we're going to sell. And all the profit will go to a sex workers organization. I firmly believe that in doing this, it's my need to participate in the community at large, even if it's not music, because it still affects you. Think about the kids who are showing up at the shows. You're much less likely to show up at a show and participate in the community if you're hungry. That's why we did a food drive last year. So I've been doing this for about 2 years, and I'm going to let you know right now that when we started this thing was goddamn bad. It's like riding a bike, but there's 10, 15, now 50 people involved, so you have 50 voices all around the world. Some people speak to some language, some don't. It's like the Tower Goddamn Babylon in that group chat, but, so this is the website when you go to Yer Scene, zine.com, which you will later because it's really cool. And so we change every month. A different person is given the opportunity to take quote-unquote the title card. So this is photographers and artists, things from the zines or things that didn't make it in the zine because somebody didn't miss the deadline. Deadlines are really hard when you're not paying people. That's something I've had to learn. So I will show you what the first issue of the zine looked like, and I will show you. So this is November 2017. The cover was done by somebody. Yep.
Was the first zine a digital zine, or
Yeah.
was it?
Yeah.
So did you go through the process of actually?
That's a great point. I definitely did go over that. So the reason why I did digital media is because I guess I'm a real bastard. With such a heavy tradition on physical media, I often feared backlash or just general negative thoughts, but people have been incredibly good to us. Like I said, the zine, when it started, this issue came out, there was probably less than 8 people involved, myself included. There's now 50 people, and we're pushing about 40,000 reads. Should be there within less than a month. Not bad, huh? So this zine is digital because, again, I mentioned earlier, I believe rural kids, I believe kids who don't have, still deserve information and access. That is firmly important. Accessibility is one of the biggest things. As earlier, the whole reason why I started the zine, or the podcast rather, was because I know not everyone loves to read, but they still deserve the information that's in the zine. Might be different topics and stuff like that, but I still want to keep people included. A learning disability is no reason not to pursue further. It just means we have to be more accommodating. I like to take the responsibility that I would do, but I think Yer Scene is being about proactive for both people, yourself and your community. So let's take a look at this thing. Do any of you do graphic design? I'm really sorry. The one we'll look at after is really good, but this is just growing pains, right? I never done any journalism, anything like that. So here's the first table of contents. That was my friend Mitchell, who I was very excited to because he was the first person from California I ever met personally. And so the thing is, the zine covers a lot of things. It covers show reviews, reviews of albums, like interviews. There's a lot of social justice pieces and stuff. Basically, I tell my writers and teammates that whatever you want to talk about, as long as it falls into the world, I'll let you do it. Because I believe in pushing people forward and really letting them get to say what they want to say, because it's a voluntary project. People are not paid for this at all. Although we were working towards Patreon later this year. If you want to give me your money, that'd be great. So this is the first issue. I'll just go through. You don't need to read, but so there's me. That was the first article I ever wrote. And here we are, and this was the most recent one that came out this month. So that's actually the logo for new merch we're doing, designed by an illustrator, Clarice, a tutor in England, and she is the sweetest person in the world. They wouldn't let me put Supreme Leader as my title here, but I didn't really push. So every month I take the time to write a letter from the editor, which is where I try to convey these ideas, not only to people who read it, but maybe people who are picking up the first time. Again, coming from a rural area when I didn't have a lot of friends going to those TRC shows, when I got there and I met with even the one person who knew what the band on my shirt was, and they had a cool band I liked on their shirt, we suddenly had a connection, and I made friends that have stuck with me side by side. So I believe everyone deserves a community behind them, whether that's family or friends, which is why, you know, for the team, one of the most important things, like I said, that group chat earlier, is people know that they have a mental health resource and people who really truly want to help them. But for me, when I show up here, I make sure, it's pretty clear here, the zine is a constant effort for us. This is a light button, I put everything I have into it. The team bleeds for this, and I hope you can appreciate it. It's taken everything I have to build this, and I'm damn proud of it. Every day people around the world come together to connect in a way, and we create art together. So one of the biggest things for me is, I didn't necessarily this month, but a lot of times I'll cover, I think people should go to shows for themselves. I think if you want to go to the movies or anything, you should go yourself, because we want to remove social stigma and pressures from enjoying art, especially on a DIY label, or like lifestyle, I guess we call it. So where am I now? And again, that kind of goes back to my last point, that one of the biggest staples and foundations of Yer Scene in DIY as a whole is removing capitalistic natures and practices within underground music that are often seen to be predatory, and at the very least subduing them. So, any questions at this point, or I'll try to tighten this up and we'll finish on the next few. So Yer Scene starts in that fall, like I said, and I started putting together the team. This zine you're all seeing, this is all people. Oh yeah, we found a SoundCloud rapper who also does backyard wrestling, and that was a lot of fun. And again, it wasn't. Oh, and yes, we asked about finishing moves and stuff like that. And this was actually done by the. And again, I know I'm giving a very general walkthrough, so because the thing is like I said, we're about 16 issues deep, 17 if you count the mini issues we do every month, and the podcast is starting to hit 20 episodes. I'm not the guy for that. So my friend Brian found this guy, thought it was super funny, but actually really liked his music, so we just reached out, and that's the biggest thing. Our biggest thing is, I realize I say that all the time, not everything can be the biggest thing, but we make an effort to contact bands all around the world. Sometimes writers bring pieces, often when they join, it's because they have a piece in mind, and then they stick around and have a transition period to when they start writing about, when they start doing more or hitting different topics and really feeling like they have that freedom. But from the first day they come in, they have entire freedom to create what they want with the people they want, again, as long as it doesn't get me angry emails. So, like I said, this is from, here's a bit of one I'll stop before we start going through the scene, but my friend Owen Schmidt actually played in one of my favorite bands and is the twin brother of my friend Hugh, who joined in that first issue. We saw a couple of his articles and posters there. And last summer, after doing enough network and pushing my weight around, I was able to get to a festival slot in St. John, and I got to come to Canada for the first time. We started moving towards booking. This is a great local release by the country and heavy music. And again, I know I keep referencing heavy music because that's my field, but like I said, wrestling SoundCloud rappers, indie darlings, and often a love for hip hop and math rock and anything outlier. Oh yeah, Dylan wrote on this too this month. He's my little buddy who's 17 from Australia. Posts edgy memes, but they're kind of funny when they're funny. I love him dearly, and he's basically become a younger brother to me. But what I'm looking to convey is that he's family to me now. I can't imagine life without Dylan. He's been doing the zine. He was the first person from Australia I ever knew personally. And when we first started the zine, and it went New Brunswick, Boston, California, and then it became a shit show. It was pretty clear cut from there. So basically the zine has people from Canada, USA, Chile, Argentina, Britain, Scotland, Ireland, Croatia, Spain, Australia, Italy, India, Indonesia, and St. Helena Island. And some more here and there. I didn't write all the casual contributors because we let people send in a piece one time and they don't have to join the team. But most of this is done by contributors who do this month in, month out. Obviously, there's not enough room for everyone, so we take turns, or people opt out, and they're very courteous around each other. Because again, all these people around the world, whether it's my little friend from Australia or my friend in northern Italy who barely speaks English, but we can somehow find the same curse words, and we share an ethos. He believes in doing it DIY much the way I do, and whether he didn't go to the Yer Scene when I was 16, but he still had that watershed moment in his life for the rest of his life to believe in this. I have not made a decision in the zine or with the podcast, or honestly my schooling, in the last 3 years without using this ethos. Basically, it means when you are taking on something, how does this affect the people around me? Is it good, is it bad? If there are costs to it, what are they, and how are we going to do this ourselves? Because it's all about doing it within your means. I can't do any of this. I can barely write my hand. In the 5th grade, they actually took me out of class and gave me a special pencil. I'm so bad at handwriting. Turns out I'm just lazy. But I can't draw, I can't paint, I can't do the zine. I don't even put the damn zine together. But you can find people who can. And so that's and going to the last part, I want to communicate to you guys, because this project has utterly changed my life. This would be a cool brag if it was 2010, but my friends list has gone up about 732 people since I started this, just from networking, and my phone goes off all the time. My screen time is disgusting. When they added that feature on the iPhone, I almost vomited. Any questions before I go into the last bit? Okay. So, I basically use Facebook and social media to recruit these people in different music groups. And from there, it was Reddit and word of mouth, and that would be the biggest one, because again, when you're doing things in DIY communities, if you see a sponsored ad post, you're much more hesitant because there's been money, and not just because there's money, but why is this person paying for me to see this? Why did I not find this on the Virtues on art? And obviously in an oversaturated world, as I mentioned, that some things go by the radar, but for the most part, the community is honest. When bands are getting buzz, when I hear a name, it's because I've heard it somewhere else and I know why they're getting it. So what makes the zine important? It provides family to a global team, and it's able to revitalize a traditional media. We have done physical issues, and we intend to do them as a Patreon award. Give me your money. But this is digital because at the first of the month, whether you're here in Nairobi or Essex or London or New Brunswick or St. John, New Brunswick, Canada, which is also there's a New Brunswick in Jersey, which has caused me a lot of problems through the years. I'm not happy with them. I'm going to ask them to call and change. So when it puts, like I said earlier, it puts out content 4 times a month. This is done by 2 different teams under the same banner. So people who do the podcast aren't forced to write. And while we used to mostly have the podcast composed of people who wrote or did art and wanted to expand, we now allow for hires that come on strictly to talk, because for people to avoid reading and writing, which may be a struggle for them, it would be hypocritical not to read off in that field. And so it's created from the ground up. Like I said earlier, when this started, we probably did 300 issues up in the first month, and then it kind of started to trickle up. We started getting bigger interviews. We had JPEG Mafia, if any of you follow underground hip hop, don't sleep, it's good. And he was very kind, and that was exciting because he even retweeted our interview when we posted it. And from there, we got some very notable names within the underground music scene. We just had one of our biggest in the last month, and the zine before this actually did more in 1 month than most of the zines would do in 6. So we're starting to get bigger, which is kind of scary because it means I spend way more time on the phone. But in conclusion, what is important for you to take away? Like I showed the first issue for a reason. That was an incredibly awkward and painful process, and not in the worst way, but similar scabbing your knee. I've never done any journalism in my life. In fact, I seem to have a vendetta against journalists. And I was thrown in a position where people were calling me things like editor-in-chief, and I had never even edited a copy of anything, except for papers and things like that, which admittedly needs to be worked on. So, the growing pains are awful. Learning to manage them while learning to push forward is the biggest recommendation I can give to anyone, both about your projects and your mental health. It's about finding things you really believe in. The thing is whether your scene goes belly up tomorrow would be the correct way to say it. Regardless if this shuts down tomorrow, I'm still DIY and I still believe in that ethos. I will continue to do things both for my community and myself as a multiple, but I believe in this and I always have. And it's something I found when I was 16, and those were the days before I could drive. So going to a show living in Grand Bay meant I had to go to the show. I had to go to school on the school bus, bring in a book bag and stuff so I could keep all my stuff, because I didn't have a locker at the time because I was an idiot. And I'd get out of school and I'd go walk uptown from Harvard High School, and then I would go wait around for 3 or 4 hours till the show starts, which meant I got in there and I would wait and I would talk to everyone. I was so excited. I never want any of you, if you're interested in starting anything, is never lose that unbridled sense of enthusiasm and love for what you do. The days I get incredibly stressed and negative about this, it only takes seeing a live video from a basement in New Orleans to really remind you why I do it. And the biggest pain of this all is I can't travel to see all these places. And charisma only gets you so far. How you work with people represents yourself. I work with a pretty large staff. I have an upper staff in terms of people who are head of head of podcasting or head of hip hop, and they get me a report every month. But decisions are made for the most part collectively, and people are encouraged to participate. One of the biggest things we spend our time on is when people join is that we make sure that people reach out to them and make sure that they don't feel like just somebody got added into a group chat of 50 people, because that can be a nightmare. So, God, I keep saying in closing, but the goal of new media and DIY is to connect. It's providing it's providing background and new information for people, and allowing for people who did this during the 90s to connect with zines and information in new days. And something I've said, and I'll say again, is everyone deserves to participate. And if you are currently sitting on a project, whether it's musical or starting something like this, or starting your own thing that I've never thought of, my biggest thought is DIY is yours. It's not unattainable. Projects of mental health is a fight, and you need to want this. This zine, I do this while working in a band and in school. This zine is basically a full-time job for me, and obviously I don't get paid for it. But again, I love it, answering emails and creating networks. I actually just I just sent out an email. I've been granted permission for what's going to be my biggest interview, and it'll probably change the entire trajectory of the scene for the year. And because it's kind of a free-falling organization that's very organized at the same time, you never know. Every day I wake up and there can be a message from somebody, a couple weeks ago it was India, and in North Ireland somebody reached out about a month ago, and now we have quite a following there because more people from there have gotten involved. You just have to give people, no matter where they are, you have to meet them at their level. To be honest with you, I really don't care about the kid in New York City as much as I care about the kid in the tiny basement show in some weird corner of Britain. While I care about the big city show and stuff like that, they have an entirely different and much more isolated life. Whereas this is a community made by people from small areas who want to but connect with and join hands with other small communities around the world so that they may do better. Them doing better, them making art, them getting photographers means I can have that art, that show poster, we can do that show review, and that means more people for you, and of course we got to cover it, and we're thankful. And more than that, I'm excited we did it before anyone else, or even if there's dreams involved, or anything like that. So thank you for your time. Thank you for letting me do this. Thank you to Anthony, who is a very old friend of mine. He was, a lot of the Yer Scene team wanted to see this filmed, and none of them were willing to pay thousands of dollars to fly to Canada to do it. So we had to film it. I hope there isn't any problems, and if we need to blur any faces or anything, let me know. And you can find Anthony's YouTube channel. He's been a pretty successful vlogger for the last few years at TheVlogTheory. And again, of course, my friends, my family, my dad. I call my assistant Zukov after the World War II general because she's an absolute missile, but Natalie and of course Paige. I encourage everyone to try. Try art and try communicating. Be you and what you believe in. This is me, and that is why you won't see a crack, because it's honest. Regardless of if your ethos is newborn, maybe this inspired you, and I hope it did, or something is stirring inside of you, something that you already know and want to take to the world, you just have to get it going. You just have to start getting going. Do that first messy issue. It'll be a mess, but the next month someone who really knows how to do graphic design shows up and helps you. Do it the next month, somebody from another continent helps you. Do it from the next because, your favorite people in the media are like, underground music and stuff like that. Somebody said yes to an interview. I was just another dude before I started doing this, and this has entirely changed my life for the better and who I am. I have learned a lot from a team around the world, and I'm thankful that you let me talk about it, and I hope that you check it out. And our social media is a shit show. So just go on the website and find it from there. I encourage all of you, and if you do anything music related, if you do art, if you do photos, send them to me and I'll try to find a way in. Thank you very much. You can find me on Instagram at KTheory.
One of the things that strikes me is that you mentioned a number of things that kind of fit in with what we talked about early internet ethos of you're not looking to make money, you're looking to build a community, you're looking to share information, treat everyone as part of that community. And I kind of thought that I want you to explain kind of that position and that ethos with the growth that you see. And like, do you need to grow, or how? Like,
it almost feels inevitable in a lot of ways, because the thing is, you need to understand is I'm an advantage from. I really hate being a capitalistic businessman, but I'm really good at it. So we're just going to shoot straight with each other from there. The biggest success to Yer Scene is that every time somebody new joins from a new area, we instantly have a new market that's untapped. That person is instantly bringing their friends who went to TRC shows or whatever their equivalent is, and we are now in a new area. It's been interesting to see, actually, because as you're saying, why, like, does it need to grow? No, but the more it does, the better it is for everyone. One, because I can get those sweet, sweet Instagram followers, and two, like I was mentioning earlier, people can find things they need. And again, as I was saying earlier, when it's growing, it does better from everyone involved. It's a very mutual thing. If this issue gets 1 million reads, then, all the bands in here, and this is actually done by my friend in Italy, Daniele, beautiful man, if there ever was one. And now he's a working artist, and now so many people have seen his work. And we see different things because we know when we can offer financial opportunities and when we can't. So one of the biggest things too that we started an initiative in the last year was to provide people with an incentive to commission the workers that I wasn't paying, which I realize sounds bad. But what we did is whenever bands wanted a tour poster, show photos, or anything like that, we said we'd cover half the artist's fee so you can get them some work. That was one of the biggest things. And then from there, the merch, how we work with merch. If you buy a sweater right now, you use Spring 20 for 20% off. The artist takes all the money except for a percentage that they allocate to us. I go to them saying, I provided you with an opportunity, would you voluntarily provide us with a percent? 10, 15, 20 maybe? Because that way, now we have a little bit more money, we can make more opportunities for ourselves as a collective, which in turn will make it bigger, which when that person who may be quote unquote the starving artist gets to do merch, they might make a little bit of money. And while again, not the focus, but we're looking for opportunities to subdue capitalistic nature that would be harmful to us. Getting my artists paid more is a good thing. I want to provide, they work hard and they work for free for this. This is all done for free. And it's a lot of time and stuff like that. But it does them better and it makes them feel like they're getting something out of it, even aside from the continuation of ethos and things like that. What was the other part of the question?
I think
It still costs money.
Yeah, it still costs money. The webs. Well, the thing is too, but that, again, one of the biggest things about going digital is even that earliest day, you see the subversion. I'll get you after this. The subversion again of the capitalist nature, because the zine being digital means that we can amass it through the internet, through emails, through Facebook messages. I don't have to go out buy paper and stuff like that. Actually, if you guys just want me to be honest with you, the biggest reason why we had zines in the 90s, does anyone know what a Klinkos is? Kinko's? Okay, so American staples. So people used to go, who used to make zines in the hardcore scene, used to go get jobs there so they could steal printer paper all night. So, there's always been that subversion. Blake, you have a question?
So, like, doing one of those comics projects right now, and what I'm realizing is, like, I started off with focus on one thing, and very quickly, most of the work is, like, outside of that one thing. So, like, you talked a lot about community building, and you talked about, like group chats and things like that. So, like, outside of the zine itself, and more focusing on the community that you built, what would you say is, like, the biggest tip of, like, maintaining that community? Like what's keeping them like chatting?
You have no idea what you're going to gain when you go into an unexpected situation. When people apply to Yer Scene, they might have been following it for a year, and they see it as something unattainable or too big for them, or somebody who just found this issue and has decided that this is what I need to do with my time. Because there's been a lot of both of those. But when you join Yer Scene, you don't know what the hell you're getting into. To be honest with you, for safety reasons, I make every new applicant do an interview with 2 to 3 people, often closing with myself, but other team members, both higher up and new people, because we want to make sure that everyone feels like they're getting a voice on people who are coming in. I never will put anyone in danger. We actually had somebody's crazy half-sister try to join. I had to tell her that she couldn't. And that wasn't good. So when people join, then they get this group chat of 50 people, and once or twice a month, depending on time zones, they come to the conference calls where I rattle through a million things and I go, what do you guys think of this? I was thinking about this. How would you consider trying this? Did this go well? What about you guys? And you get to hear all these people from around the world, accents, languages, understandings of English, because primarily while that is what we publish in, we've actually put many bilingual articles, both French, Spanish, and Polish, and we hope to be doing more on that, because again, accessibility is a right for me. So when people join, they get that group chat of 50 people, they get the conference calls, but we also do fun things to make sure that people really stick around, because I can't tell you how many people have joined in this and seen how much work is needed to be done pro bono, and they turn around, understandably. But how do people stick around? So for me, the biggest thing is that we act as a community and a family. More than a team, we're friends. We're never a team, we're friends and family. This makes things a little interesting when you have to get down to the nitty-gritty, but I believe overall it's for the best. I've been very conscious about how I built my team in the last year, because as I said, we started at 8, and we're pushing 50. So, but you get to do like April, so we do the 1st of every month, so next month we get to do a meme issue because it comes around the 1st. It's a fun way. Writers who have never written, people who have never written, artists who want to write but are scared to even try it as a joke, all now have an opportunity to field it. And for me, when people join the team, they become my friend. You have to be. It's like the Michael Scott thing where, when they're watching the TV clip, that I want to have 100 kids, so I have 100 friends. It's kind of like the weird version of that. So when people join the team, I do everything I can to connect with this person, because again, you're dealing with the issues that you're doing with any long distance through the internet connection. I'd love to sit down with this person for coffee and make them feel like they're more than just a name and a file to me. How do I do that? So for me, it's constantly talking to people, first of all. I am always talking to people to make sure that they have my time. At the end of pretty much every sentence, if you haven't noticed, or at the end of group calls, I always offer, if you have any comments, concerns, questions, or queries, you can call me personally. People can call me, they can message me, they can reach out to me, and if they don't feel comfortable enough talking to me, they'd rather talk to somebody who has problems more on their line, I'll find someone to do it while respecting their privacy. So basically, I think the answer to your question in short is that when people come in, they're expecting nothing, and then when they kind of get everything. They get family, friends, participation, community, art, inspiration, networking, and a good memory. This, again, if this were to go down tomorrow, I still have 18 issues I can look at the next day and go, damn, we really did this. So, can I answer any more questions? Are you guys down with me?
Are you available to stop later? Afterwards, I don't have any comments. Just like
sure.
Any questions?
Important note: always make time for people. We got this. But again, really, it's about showing up, doing things, and making connections where you can. Weirdly enough, I have more phone contacts in Seattle, Washington, than I do St. John after a new phone. Yeah, again, it's interesting because sometimes we pull up the map and I try to pin how many cities I could redirect you to somebody there. But like my favorite venue right now in the United States as a whole is the courthouse in Portland, which is this grimy ass metal venue. But the people in it live there and they're great. And again, like I'm saying, it's just about making connection. And sometimes I'll just be sitting there thinking I'm not working, and I'll see a Facebook post. Does anyone know people who do album art? Oh yeah, I got 30 of them in the back. Which one do you want? Again, create opportunities for yourself. Create opportunities for others. Always be doing it for so. in the development of good. If it is a struggle now, if a reward is good later, then you have done the right thing in a lot of cases. And ultimately, it's hard, but you need to, even if you don't know which way to push, you got to push. So thank you very much for your time. I'm thrilled to do this. The zine comes out first of every month. If you have any questions, like I said earlier, if you're interested in applying, I'll put in a good word for you because I'm a street dictator. And I don't smoke cigarettes or something. All right, thanks, guys.